Okay, so your FAFSA is done. I'm excited for you. And now the question is, what happens next? So you had an FSA ID to do the FAFSA, and I'm telling you this is important. I can't tell you how many people come to us every year and say, I don't know my FSA ID. The information you used, you should write it down. You want to keep this in a safe place for students. If you take out student loans, you're going to use that same FSA ID all the way through repayment of your student loans. So please keep that in a safe place and be ready to pull it out next year when it's time to do your FAFSA. So when you submit the FAFSA, the federal government is going to receive that. They're going to do a series of database matches with like Social Security Administration, Selective Service, etc. They will calculate the student's eligibility for financial aid and produce that EFC. And then they will identify whether or not the college is required to follow up on any of your information. And once they've done all that processing, it takes sometimes a couple days, and then they will make the data available to the colleges. And it's up to us to download that information. At the same time they do that, they're going to send out information to the student to let you know it's been finished. So the majority of you will receive an email confirmation. If you didn't put a student email in there, then you will actually get something in the mail called a SAR or student aid report. Once you have that, it's a good time to go back and just double check everything. Make sure that the income information was entered correctly. If you find any discrepancies, then notify one or more of the colleges that you listed on your FAFSA, and they can assist you in making corrections. So the schools then have access to your information, and they will then bring that into their computer systems and begin their processing. So based on what we get back from the Department of Education, we may be asking you to submit additional information. This could be copies of your tax returns. If you didn't do that IRS data retrieval, you can go back and do that as a correction. Or maybe we need to get a verification worksheet to confirm the people that are in your household. And sometimes there may be other eligibility items. Maybe we need to get a copy of your Social Security card. Anything, we'll let you know. So how do you find out about that? Well, here's where you're going to want to watch the email address for the colleges that you have. So watch your emails. It may be the college email, so you may need to start logging into those accounts. Or sometimes the schools will have web services that will let you get in there and actually see where you stand in the financial aid process, the billing process, etc. So log into your school website if you have access to that. Once we have everything done, we will produce an award, or we will award your financial aid, and that creates what we call an offer letter. Now, the FAFSA begins in October. A lot of times your awarding won't start until sometime in the early spring. On the Sandburg front, after we get your FAFSA, we'll pull that in usually 3 to 7 days after it's been filed. And again, we're going to communicate with you via the Sandburg email account. So make sure that you're logging into that. You can have it forwarded to your personal account if you choose, or you can log into your My Sandburg self-service. You can actually upload your documents using that self-service website. And for us, awarding will begin in March. So when you did the FAFSA, remember that it asked you for income that was basically 2 years old. And so if there's changes in your financial circumstances since that time, this is a good time to communicate with the college and let them know that there's been changes and you don't have the resources you had when you filed that FAFSA. Examples of this may be a loss of job or benefits, maybe an unemployment that you no longer have, reduced overtime, a lower paying job this year than you had last year. If your total income is going to be less in any of the years after you filed the FAFSA, this is a time to get a hold of the colleges. The other thing that may have happened is maybe you have a divorce or separation after you filed. The other thing that we can take into consideration is unusual expenses. Now, this is not your Halloween costume as I have in the picture here, but we do have a lot of fun at Sandburg. So things that we can take into consideration are a required expense that's usually outside the family's control. And so some examples of this is maybe excessive medical or dental expenses. Now there's a basic allowance, but if you pay a lot, then that would be a time to contact us. Maybe you are paying elementary or secondary tuition for other children who are still in school. Or what if it's a parent who's paying on their own student loans? We can take that into consideration. Or maybe the year that you filed your FAFSA, you had a bonus that year or extra income that year that's not common in your taxes. If that's the case, contact us. Some of the other things that I always like to talk about is common mistakes. So some of the things that we'll see, maybe you failed to actually go in and report the income earned from work for both parent one and parent two, or student and spouse if you're independent. In that case, that actually reduces your eligibility, or that actually reduces your income, increases your eligibility for financial aid. So I always like to look for that. Make sure that you report it. If you had a pension that was rolled over, sometimes that doesn't come through off of the, when they do the IRS data retrieval. So you'll need to let us know about that. The other thing that I find way too often is that in the student section, we reported the parent income. So the parent income is duplicated. It's reported twice. And that does not qualify the student for financial aid in most cases. So do look for that, and we'll try and watch for it too, but make sure you correct that if you find it. And the other thing that happens commonly is if you had a pension benefit that was rolled over. So usually if you leave a job during that year and you roll over your 401k or 403b, we don't have to count that, but the tax return has it out there pretty easy, and sometimes people will put that in by mistake. The other thing you want to do after you file the FAFSA, or at the same time you're filing the FAFSA, is to look for those scholarships. And so you're going to apply for scholarships for every college or university that you're wishing to attend. So check their website, because they will have their internal scholarship process. Check with your high school if you're about to graduate to see what local scholarships are available. We certainly recommend students in the Knox County area and Warren County area look for that Mellinger scholarship and do that application each year. That is renewable for 4 years, so we encourage you to apply for that. And then you may wish to do a scholarship search. So there is a number of companies out there that offer scholarship searches, and as long as it's a free process for you, then I would recommend that you take that into your account. Once we have all of the documents and we've had a chance to review those, then our next step is to provide you with an offer letter. The offer letter is going to tell you what types of financial aid you can receive and whether it's going to be work, loan, grants, scholarships, etc. So you're going to want to read this carefully, start comparing that with your other offers to see, where you're going to stand financially, look at the long-term debt. Some colleges will ask you to accept your offers, and so we do that for our foundation scholarships at Sandburg. Your general financial aid, we just make an assumption you're going to accept it. If you don't want it, you have to decline it in writing. And so look to see if they require an acceptance. And then if you're offered student loans and you wish to take out student loans, there are additional steps. You have to do an entrance counseling, and of course you need to sign that promissory note. And you're going to do that for both the student loan, and if the parents wish to borrow a parent loan, the parents will also need to do the parent loan application and do the promissory note for that. So you apply each year on October 1st. That's the process. If you have questions, then always reach out to your financial aid office. Have a great day.